Hi and welcome to the first video on surds. So by the end of this lesson you should be able to define the difference between a rational and an irrational number, and you should be able to define what a surd is. So what do I mean by rational and irrational numbers? Well, a rational number is simply a number that can be expressed as a fraction of two whole numbers. It's a ratio of two integers. And these just look like fractions. So 2 over 1, 1/2, 1/3, etc. These can also be expressed as decimals. So we've got a whole 2, 0.5, 0.4 and 0.3 repeating. Now let's have a little look at this. In case you don't know what this is called a repeater, and this is known as a repeating decimal. Because if we were to write this out in full, 1/3 is 0.3333. It doesn't terminate, it carries on. So instead of writing this out, we denote this with a repeater at the top. Another example is 2/3, so 0.6. And as I said, they don't terminate, they carry on forever. Whereas other rational numbers we call terminating decimals because they do stop and they don't go on forever. So that's what a rational number is. So how about an irrational number? Well, an irrational number is therefore a number that cannot be expressed as a fraction of one whole number to another. It is not a ratio of two integers. Examples of this include square root of 2, the square root of 5, cube root of 10, and famously pi. And if you remember your pi, we know that these are non-repeating, non-terminating decimals because it continues forever. Pi, there's pi to about 20 decimals. We know that it continues forever. And this is typical of irrational numbers. This is what irrational numbers are. So what is a surd then? Well, a surd is an irrational number that can be expressed as a root of an integer or root of a whole number. And we've seen some examples of this. An example will be square root of 2, square root of 3, square root of 5, cube root of 10. So the square root of 7, if we were to put this into a calculator, it would give us this answer here. And it actually rounds the final digit because the calculator doesn't have an infinitely long display. So this can only display it to about 12 digits. But this is a surd because it is non-repeating, non-terminating, and therefore it's irrational. Square root of 16, it's got the root, so it's a root of an integer, but we know the square root of 16 is 4, and it is a rational number, so it is not a surd. Square root of 8 is indeed a surd because it's non-repeating and non-terminating. Therefore, it is irrational. Cube root of 8, however, is 2. Therefore, that is not a surd because it is a whole number and therefore rational. So in recap, a rational number is a number that can be expressed as a fraction of two integers. An irrational number cannot be expressed as a fraction of two integers. A surd is a root of an integer that is irrational. So all surds are irrational, but not all irrational numbers are surds.